You're listening to a special bonus episode of the Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, NHL fans! Welcome to my 2021-22 NHL Season Preview here on the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. I didn't do this last year because the COVID realignment wasn't conducive to a preview. This year, though, in the normal format, it's very conducive. So, I'm going to go division by division, telling you where I think every team is going to finish. I'll give you my Stanley Cup pick. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll go alphabetically, so I'll start with the Atlantic Division. Then I'll go to the Central, the Metropolitan, and then the Pacific. The winner of the Atlantic Division will be the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's impossible to bet against them. Back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. They're shaping up to be a modern-day dynasty. They have a great coach in John Cooper. An elite core with guys like Andre Palat, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Alex Killorn, Anthony Cirelli, Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, and Andrei Vasilevsky. It's just impossible to bet against them. What's the old saying? It's very hard to repeat. That's true. It's even harder to three-peat, but let me tell you, I wouldn't begrudge you for saying that the Lightning will three-peat. I think that's a very reasonable prediction. Do I think they will? Stay tuned. Finishing right behind them will be the Toronto Maple Leafs. A team with all the star power in the world. John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Morgan Riley, Jason Spezza, Wayne Simmons, Morgan Riley. And if you want to call Jack Campbell a star after saving the Leafs season, I'm okay with that. The thing that scares me is they've got a lot of guys that aren't good by themselves. They're just made better by playing with superstars. Like Nick Ritchie really isn't as good as he's going to look playing with Tavares and Marner. Michael Bunting isn't as good as he's going to look playing next to Nylander. Michael Amodio isn't as good as he's going to look playing next to Jason Spezza and Wayne Simmons. It's just very difficult for me to see the Maple Leafs finishing ahead of the Lightning in the standings. Could they beat the Lightning in the playoffs? Anything's possible, but it's hard to predict it. This is a team that just year after year has fallen short of expectations. They're that team that until they get over the hump, you can't confidently pick to make a ton of noise. Finishing third will be the Florida Panthers. I love their top six. Carter Verhaeghe, former Islander, Alexander Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Jonathan Huberdeau, Sam Bennett, and Owen Tippett comprise a young and exciting top six. You've got Mackenzie Weegar and Aaron Ekblad back together. Ekblad obviously had the big injury midway through last season. Spencer Knight's probably the best goalie prospect in the NHL. And Sergei Bobrovsky, while he's not a money goalie, he plays well in the regular season. And if he doesn't, Knight will be able to take over. So I have a lot of faith in the Panthers' goaltending situation. A lot more than I do in the Bruins' goaltending situation. I can hear Bostonians now. How can you have the Panthers finishing ahead of the Bruins? You don't know what you're talking about. Look at the Bruins goalies. Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. How can I confidently pick a team with that duo to make a lot of noise in a very competitive Atlantic Division? I have no idea what I'm going to get from Ullmark as a guy who's going to play 45 games or so. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Swayman as a guy who plays 45 games or so. I know what I'm getting from the Panthers. I know that Bobrovsky can play in the NHL as a starter. Not in the playoffs, but in the regular season. I don't know that about Ullmark. I don't know that about Swayman. Yes, the perfection line. Yes, a great D-man core. But I can't have a ton of faith in the Bruins. It wouldn't stun me if they leapfrog the Panthers. I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, this is really tough because I just killed the Bruins for having bad goaltending, yet I'm picking a team with one of the best goalies in the NHL, Carey Price, to finish behind them. The reality is, though, I'm just not sold on the Canadiens. I think they were helped a lot by the realignment. The North Division last year is just a weaker division compared to what this year's Atlantic Division will be. And also, Carey Price is dealing with some personal stuff. He'll be out for a good chunk of the start of the season. As he goes, so do the Habs. All due respect to Jake Allen, solid goalie, good goalie as a matter of fact, not Carey Price. I just can't see the Habs finishing above the Bruins. Finishing 6th in the Atlantic Division will be the Ottawa Senators. I think you'll see some progress with the Senators. I think they're going about this rebuild the right way. I understand that no one likes the owner, Eugene Melnyk. Totally get that. You have every right not to like him. But Pierre Dorion seems to have a good head on his shoulders. DJ Smith was a very well-respected coach with the Maple Leafs. It's yet to really produce for the Senators, but I think he has a solid head on his shoulders. And you look at this Senators team, Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, Nick Paul, Shane Pinto, Connor Brown, Chris Tierney, Alex Formenton, Zach Sanford, Parker Kelly, Tom Shabbat, Eric Brandstrom. They're full of young and exciting players. If they can improve the defense, because once you get past Shabbat and Brandstrom, it really falls off. And once they get a true franchise goalie that can be Matt Murray, he just wasn't that last year. In fact, he was about as far away from that as he could possibly be. You'll see the Senators take a major step forward. This core that the Senators have is capable of duplicating what the 06-07 Senators did. Man, I remember those Senators teams. Those were fun teams. Finishing 7th in the Atlantic, I have the Detroit Red Wings. Not a ton to be excited about in Hockeytown, USA. They have a young core that you hope can come together and turn into something, but it really hasn't coalesced. They have a really good goalie duo with Alex Nedeljkovic and Thomas Greiss. And they have talented players. Tyler Bertuzzi, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, Robbie Fabry, Pius Suter, Philip Zadina. They really have talented players, even more than that, but it just doesn't seem like they're coalescing. At the end of the day, that's on Jeff Blashill. I understand that he was dealt a really bad hand. Taking over for Mike Babcock was never going to be easy. But this guy hasn't made the playoffs since his rookie year, 15-16. And even then, they got destroyed by the Lightning in 5 games. I just don't like him, very bad coach, until the Red Wings move on from him. Their ceiling is very, very low. This young core that they have should be better than it is. That's on the coach. But cheer up, Red Wings fans, at least you're not last. That distinction goes to the Buffalo Sabres. Really nothing to be excited about in Buffalo. I mean, yeah, you've got some good young players, but with this rebuild, how many building blocks do you really have? Not many. I've played that game before. Maybe you have some solid depth players in the future, but no superstars. Rasmus Dahlin hasn't turned into a superstar. Neither is Casey Middlestat. Neither is Tage Thompson. And you've got the Jack Eichel situation to contend with. I just don't see how this season ends well for the Sabres. They're going to be an incredibly bad team. Just like last year, the Islanders had a lot of fun picking on the Sabres. The Lightning, the Maple Leafs, the Bruins, the Panthers, and the Habs will all have fun picking on the Sabres. Moving on now to the Central Division. Winning that, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Really, really exciting top 9. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Andrew Kopp, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nick Ehlers, Paul Stastny, Adam Lowry, and Christian Vesalainen are all really good players. I like their D-man core: Josh Morrissey, Nate Schmidt, Brendan Dillon, Neil Pionk, Logan Stanley, and Dylan DeMello. And Connor Hellebuck is one of the best goalies in the NHL. This could be the year that the Jets really break out. Since making the conference finals in 17-18, they've really underwhelmed. Losing in the first round the year after that to the Blues, losing in the qualifying round to the Flames, and getting swept by the Canadiens in the second round last year. It's just been a very underwhelming time to be a Jets fan. They've been a good regular season team, but once the lights are on bright, they've folded. So it's set up well for the Jets to make a lot of noise this year. And I think they will, let me tell you. Finishing behind them will be the St. Louis Blues. Although I think they'll finish behind the Jets by a pretty comfortable margin. See, the thing with the Blues is they're just not a really exciting team to me. I mean, they're a good team. It's just hard for me to bang the drum for the Blues. I mean, that's probably because they followed up winning the Stanley Cup by losing in the first round in back-to-back years. It could be that their core is on the older side, and it's kind of hard for me to get behind them. Like, there are no superstars. Say what you want about the Islanders, but Matthew Barzal's a superstar. The Blues don't have a Barzal. And they've got the Vladimir Tarasenko thing to deal with. It's tough for me to get excited about the Blues. I think they'll be really good. I think they'll finish second in the Central Division. They'll make the playoffs. I just don't see them making the Jets work. Finishing third will be the Colorado Avalanche. They're a very top-heavy team. Their first line is as good as any in the NHL. Gabriel Landeskog, Nate McKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen. But once you get past them, their forward core really falls off. Once you get past the top pair of Sam Girard and Cale Makar, their defense really falls off. Realize, Devon Taves had shoulder surgery in the offseason. We don't know when he's coming back. If something happens to Darcy Kemper, it's on Jonas Johansson to carry the load, with Pavel Francouz as the backup. It doesn't get much worse than that. The Avalanche are a top-heavy team that kind of scares me. Again, I think they'll be good. I just don't think we'll ever look at them as a real contender. Finishing fourth will be the Minnesota Wild. A team that I've always liked for some reason. Maybe it's because of their willingness to spend in free agency, but I've just always found myself not rooting for the Wild. Because it's not like if the Islanders play the Wild, I'm putting on a Wild jersey. It's not like I go out of my way to watch Wild games. But I feel like if I had to pick a second NHL team, it would be the Wild. I don't know if I could do that for any other sport. And again, that's not to say that I'm not a diehard Islanders fan. I promise you I am. Okay? Went to every one of their playoff home games. Went to New Jersey to see them, despite not having the full waiting period of the second COVID shot. Watched all of their games. I'm a diehard Islanders fan. I just always liked the Wild. See, the thing with the Wild is this strikes me as more of a rebuilding phase for them. Realize they bought out Parise and Suter. They gave Kirill Kaprizov a huge contract. There are rumors that they could move on from Matt Zuccarello and Alex Goligoski and Cam Talbot. It just seems like the Wild are caught in the middle right now. They have a solid team. Like, if they wanted to put the pedal to the metal and put together a Stanley Cup contender, I don't think it would be impossible. But I don't think they're going to do that. I just think they're going to be content to stay in neutral for a little bit. Finishing in 5th, I have the Dallas Stars. They have some good players. I like Jason Robertson. I like Rupe Hintz. I like Joe Pavelski. He can still get the job done. But Tyler Seguin and Alexander Radulov have injury concerns. And their goalie situation really scares me. Anton Khudobin and Braden Holtby? I understand that they have Jake Edinger. And Edinger looks like he's going to be a good goalie, but it's tough for me to get behind him and say that he's going to be the second coming of Marty Turco. See, the thing is, you look at a team like the Florida Panthers, they're very similar to the Stars. They both have a really good young goalie prospect, but the Panthers have a guy in Bobrovsky who can carry the load until that young goalie is ready to take over. The Stars don't have that guy. That's what scares me. It wouldn't stun me if the Stars made some noise and leapfrog teams like the Wild, Avalanche, and Blues. But I just have a ton of questions about them. That brings me to the Nashville Predators. Just a really bad team. You can't get excited about them. They have 3 great players, Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, and UC Saros. Yes, I'll call Saros great. After that, it falls off a cliff. Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene are overpaid. Eeli Tolvanen is disappointing a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to get from Cody Glass. Matthias Ekholm is good, not great. Again, you just can't get excited about them. They will hold the distinction, though, of being the second opponent in Seattle Kraken history. Obviously, the Kraken are opening up the season tonight against the Golden Knights, but after that, they travel to Nashville to play the Predators. That's kind of interesting. Finishing 7th in the Central, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. A team with future Hall of Famers, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, and Marc-Andre Fleury. But the reality is, those guys can't carry a team into the playoffs anymore. Fleury's going to be asked to play like 55 games. Do you see that ending well? I really don't. I think Fleury will be decent in that role, not great. I don't know what I'm getting from Jonathan Toews after missing a full year. I like the first line of Alex DeBrincat, Tyler Johnson, and Patrick Kane. That's a strong first line. Totally get that. But once you get past that, you can't get excited about him. I think the Blackhawks realize that their window to win is closed. They had a great run, modern day dynasty. 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. 5 conference finals appearances in 7 years. But it's done. Their time as the class of the NHL has passed. I see them continuing their youth movement. And the same thing holds for the Arizona Coyotes. Very hard to get behind them. From an on-the-ice perspective and an off-the-ice perspective. On the ice, yeah, they have Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Phil Kessel, Jacob Chychrun, and Shane Gostisbehere. Really good players. But once you get past them, man alive, does it fall off a cliff. No player on the Coyotes this year, with the exception of those 5 guys that I just mentioned, had 15 points last year. It doesn't get any worse than that. And from an off-the-ice perspective, you have no idea where the Coyotes are going to be in the near future. Are they going to stay in Arizona? Are they going to move to Quebec City? Are they going to move to Green Bay? Are they going to move to Portland? Are they going to move to Kansas City? Are they going to move to Atlanta? Are they going to move to Central Canada? Bunch of different options. It's impossible to predict that the Coyotes will do anything good this year. Moving on now to the Metropolitan Division. And you can call me a homer for this, but in my heart of hearts, this is what I believe. I think the New York Islanders are winning the Met. You've got Anders Lee coming back after missing half the season. You added Zach Parise, who makes that third line infinitely better. You added Zdeno Chara. Ilya Sorokin's a year better. Noah Dobson's a year better. Oliver Wahlstrom's a year better. Given what the Islanders have done the last 2 seasons, I really think the Islanders are going to win the Met. I'll say this, though. They obviously lost some guys. They lost Nick Leddy. They lost Jordan Eberle. And Semyon Varlamov's going to be out for a little bit. But the Islanders got better. Maybe not by a ton, but that's okay, because the Metropolitan Division really isn't that good. You've got the New York teams, and that's it. Like, I'll be honest with you. I see the Islanders and Rangers finishing 1-2 in the Met. The Rangers hired the best head coach available in Gerard Gallant. They made a concerted effort to get better this offseason, and they did. They got a lot tougher as well. When I look at the Rangers, I really don't see a ton of holes. I see a really good top 9 with Alexis Lafreniere, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, Artemi Panarin, Ryan Strome, Capo Caco, Sammy Blais, Philip Keitel, and Barclay Goodrow. That fourth line I'd like to get a little better besides Ryan Reeves. Kevin Rooney's solid, but he doesn't really fit along with Reeves. And I don't know too much about Dryden Hunt, I'll be honest with you. But I like their top 4 D-men, Ryan Lindgren, Adam Fox, Keandre Miller, and Jacob Trouba. Not a big fan of Jared Tenorti and Patrick Nemeth. They're not terrible, but they're not great. But I'll say this, I love their goalie duo. Igor Shesterkin and Alexander Georgiev. I think they're going to be motivated this year. And again, the Metropolitan Division really isn't that good. Only 2 teams got better, the Islanders and Rangers. Those are the teams that I think are going to finish 1-2. Finishing third, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. The biggest question with them is Carter Hart. Because you look at their skaters, it's great. It's absolutely great. No complaints there. But after having a great sophomore season and narrowly beating the Islanders in the bubble, Hart fell off a cliff last year. Went 9-11-5 with an .877 save percentage and a .367 goals against. I think Hart can bounce back. But if he doesn't, the Flyers are in trouble. And realistically, they could fall to, like, 5th in the Met. The Flyers' way of getting better is Carter Hart being better. I'm okay with that. I think he will be better. It's just hard for me to have a ton of confidence in them. In fourth, I have the Washington Capitals. A team that is certainly past their prime. A team that won't make a ton of noise, but they have Alex Ovechkin. Any team with Alex Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, Nicholas Backstrom, and John Carlson will be solid. Not great. You'll never look at the Capitals as a true contender, but they'll be decent. That brings me to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, they have Crosby and Malkin. Yes, they have Jake Gensel. Yes, they have Brian Rust. Yes, they have Kasperi Kapanen. Yes, they have Chris Letang. And yes, they have Tristan Jarry. But Crosby and Malkin are going to be hurt to start the season. Malkin's going to be out for a while. I just can't be optimistic about the Penguins. I saw them play the Islanders. They looked slow. They looked old. Jake Gensel's on the COVID list. I can't have faith in the Penguins. That brings me to the New Jersey Devils, a team that added probably the best free agent available in Dougie Hamilton. The thing is, though, what good does that do them? I mean, sure, they're better, but they're not a playoff team. This just reminds me of the Sabres signing Taylor Hall. You thought Hall would help turn them around? They did nothing. Dougie Hamilton may not even have that good a season this year because everyone's going to be keying in on him. I mean, it's kind of hard to do that since Hamilton's a defenseman, and if you key in on him, you'll lose sight of a guy like Tomas Tatar, Jack Hughes, Yegor Sharangovich, Pavel Zacha, Nico Hischier, or Jesper Bratt, but I just don't see how Hamilton makes the Devils a playoff team. Instead of being dreadful, the Devils will just be mediocre. I think that's the best way of looking at it. That brings me to the Carolina Hurricanes. I am selling Hurricane stock. Alright, they are incredibly overrated. They have a great first line with Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, and Martin Necas. And Nino Niederreiter and Jordan Stahl are good players. But I don't like the Jack Drury-centered line. Who the hell is Jack Drury? I'll be honest with you, I know nothing about him. These guys who I don't know anything about, they need to earn the right for me to know something about them. The vaunted Hurricanes defense, I think, is overrated. Outside of Brett Pesce, I don't think they have a really good defenseman. And they let Alex Nedeljkovic walk. Their goalies this year are going to be Frederik Andersen, Antti Ranta, and Eetu Makiniemi. It doesn't get any worse than that. You go from having a really good goalie in Ned to 3 guys named Mo. I have no faith in the Hurricanes. I am selling their stock. They're going to be really bad. That brings me to the Columbus Blue Jackets. A team that I think is in line for a rebuilding year. They have some good players. Guys like Jacob Voracek, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Jack Roslovich. I wouldn't call any of them great. It just seems like they're content to have this as a rebuilding year. Realize they fired John Tortorella and replaced him with Brad Larson. They brought in John Davidson. I just don't see the Blue Jackets making a ton of noise this year. It seems like they're content to just let their young core get better and letting the chips fall where they may. That brings me to the Pacific Division. The winner of the Pacific Division will be the Edmonton Oilers. It's just impossible for me to bet against a team that has Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. I mean, they added Duncan Keith. They got embarrassed last year. In the playoffs, they got swept. I think they're going to be motivated. I think they know that their window to win is now. And again, how can I bet against Draisaitl and McDavid? I don't think the Pacific Division is that strong. You can have your issues with the Oilers. They're not a deep team, there's no question, but I think they are the class of the Pacific Division. Finishing on their heels, this should be an exciting race, will be the Vegas Golden Knights. The big question with them is, can Robin Lehner go back to being the number 1 goalie that he was with the Islanders? That's what the Golden Knights are betting on. They traded Marc-Andre Fleury. They replaced him with Laurent Brossoit. I'm sure I butchered that name. But the reason they did that was because they wanted Lehner to be the starting goalie. They didn't want to pay 2 goalies anymore. I don't begrudge them for that, but after not starting the last couple seasons, platooning with Fleury. It'll be interesting to see what Lehner does now. I think he'll be very good. I'll say that. I really like Lehner. And obviously, you look at guys like Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Shea Theodore, Alec Martinez, Alex Pietrangelo, etc., etc. The Golden Knights are stacked. Finishing third will be the Calgary Flames. A team with a great forward core. Absolutely love their top nine of Johnny Hockey, Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk, Andrew Mangiapane, Elias Lindholm, Blake Coleman, Milan Lucic, Mikhail Backlund, and Dylan Dubé. And Jacob Markstrom's a good goalie. In fact, he's a really good goalie. But I don't like their defense. Their best defenseman is probably Rasmus Andersson. All due respect to Andersson. Good player, not great. Shouldn't be a number one defenseman. He's not going to remind anyone of Al McInnes anytime soon. Let's put it that way. That's my big issue with the Flames. If their defense gets better at the trade deadline, watch out. They'll make some noise. But for now, I view them as a third team in the Pacific. Finishing in fourth, I had to do it, the Seattle Kraken. After seeing what Vegas did, how can I bet against the Kraken? How can I bet against a team that has a goalie duo of Philip Grubauer and Chris Driedger? How can I bet against a team that has Mark Giordano and Vince Dunn as their top D-man duo? Giordano's the captain. He'll be a really good captain. I mean, I'll tell you, I like Jordan Eberle. I like Yanni Gourde. I like Ron Francis. How did Vegas make the Cup Finals their first year of existence? They had a great goalie in Marc-Andre Fleury. The Kraken have two arguably great goalies. Philip Grubauer is great, no question about that, and I'm a big Chris Driedger fan. So I wouldn't get upset at you for calling him great. Again, after seeing what the Golden Knights did their first year, it's impossible to bet against the Kraken. Maybe the Mariners will sign Gary Sanchez. Yankees will get rid of him. Mariners will bring him in. The crossover is great. The promotion opportunities are endless. Coming in fifth will be the Vancouver Canucks. A team with some exciting players, JT Miller, Bo Horvat, Connor Garland, and Niels Hoglander. And I really like their D-man core of Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Tyler Myers, and Quinn Hughes. And Thatcher Demko and Yaroslav Halak is a solid goalie duo. But they don't have any star power. It's hard to really get behind them. It's really hard to look at them and say, yeah, this is a team that can make some noise. They made the big trade for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but if Oliver Ekman-Larsson could be the best player on a playoff team, the Arizona Coyotes would be in really good shape. I think people are overrating the Canucks a little bit. I'm selling their stock. Finishing in sixth will be the San Jose Sharks. Just an impossible team to get behind. Sure, they have some solid players. Hurdle the Turtle, Logan Couture, Timo Meier, Rudolph Balcers, Nick Bonino, Brent Burns, and Erik Karlsson. But I'm not in love with their goalies. The Sharks just strike me as a team that had their chance to be good. Like, they went up against the Penguins in the Cup Finals, in 2016. And you were thinking, okay, this is it. This is the year that they finally take that next step. But obviously they lost to the Penguins. I just think their window to win is closed. And their goalie duo is impossible to get behind. Finishing in 7th will be the LA Kings. I had a tough time saying who I thought would be 6th or 7th. The Sharks or Kings. I know someone who's a Sharks fan. I like him, friend of mine. And I know someone who's a Kings fan. I don't like him. I think he's a jerk. That may or may not have been a factor in this placement. But in all seriousness, outside of Anze Kopitar, the Kings just don't have any star power. Jonathan Quick is past his prime. Drew Doughty at this point is good, not great. Dustin Brown at this point is good, not great. They've got a bunch of young players that are solid. There are roles for them in the NHL, but I don't see them being great. I mean, I like Cal Peterson. I think he can take over for Jonathan Quick. But it's just hard for me to really get behind the Kings. I really think they should consider trading Anze Kopitar. That brings me to the team that is first in your dictionary, but last in the standings, the Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson had a really underwhelming year last year. And outside of Maxime Comtois and Cam Fowler, does anyone really excite you on that team? Maybe Trevor Zegras? Maybe Ricard Raquel? Ryan Getzlaf is past his prime. It's so sad. The Ducks had the opportunity to be really good. They just blew it. Remember when they had the trio of Bobby Ryan, Corey Perry, and Getzlaf? You thought those guys could win a Stanley Cup together. It just never worked. And then Bobby Ryan got traded to the Senators. Corey Perry left. Sad. Very sad. I liked the Ducks once upon a time. I remember they were a sleeper team of mine a few years. Now, forget about it. There's just no way they make any noise this year. Alright, that brings me to my Stanley Cup Final. Let me get a drum roll, please. The New York Islanders will christen UBS Arena with a Stanley Cup. They will win at home, beating the Winnipeg Jets. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. New York Islanders Season Preview comes your way on Thursday night. Until next time, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.